just now, you said the good things the poets do and the bad things the poets do. You a DJ and you DJ a lot of poetry shows.
Yeah.
What are some? Let's go with the bad things first. What are some bad things you see? You don't say no names. Don't say nobody's name.
I got you.
What are some bad things you've seen poets do? And then at the end, let's go through some good things you see poets do.
Some of it is some of the stuff is what I've done myself, but some of it is all right. So I'm gonna do this next poem and something. Use the mic. Something. So yeah, like. This is like all the audience is gonna see.
Right.
So I don't even know if you heard me just now. So,
yeah. You got muffled just now. It was muffled.
So doing that is a lot of the bad things I might see, or something I've always hated from poets is the people who say, I don't come out the house unless I'm getting paid, and it's just like I don't know why that bothers me so much, but it's just like the love is supposed to be what it's about. The inspiration, the influence is what it's supposed to be about. But you're not going to leave your house unless somebody's paying you to do it. When you're not bringing that many people to justify how much you want to get paid for it. And it's just like, yeah, I'm not leaving the house unless I get paid, $300-$400, whatever. All right, tickets are $10. You are going to bring 30 people with you, right? But, whatever. So that's stuff that I hate. Just the reason why you're doing it has completely been lost. It's not supposed to be like, I can't get a job in the corporate world, so let me do poetry and rob these people. Let me jack everybody for all their money. You know what I'm saying? Let me just
speaking the gospel right now. Where the Bible at, man? I'm ready to be a Christian now. You speak the gospel right now.
Oh my goodness.
For real.
Oh my goodness. But it's just I don't know, like the love of it and the inspiration, man, reaching somebody else. When Tupac was like, I may not change the world, but I want to spark the brain of the person that is going to change the world. That's what I think poetry is supposed to be about. He didn't say, I'm going to make whatever money off of all these people. He said, I'm going to spark the brain that's going to change the world. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's what we as poets are supposed to do. We as DJs are supposed to inspire people and influence and make you happy and all that stuff. Or at least make you feel something, if not happy. But at least feel something. That's what we're supposed to do with it. So people who don't leave the house unless they're getting paid. A lot of people will come, hear themselves, and that's it. They'll talk through everybody else, or they'll just leave, which is another thing. Like, I remember the host of Java Monkey used to say that if you just want to hear yourself, then just stay in your bathroom and look in the mirror. And it's just like, that is so true to me, man. It's like, you came to hear yourself and other people to hear you. You want people to tell you how great you are. But then you immediately leave, or you're in the back just talking, whatever you're saying. I'm like, things come up, conversations happen, but you came, you paid whatever to get in, or whatever the case is. You came just to hear yourself, and you leave like right away. Well, you really didn't need us to do that then. Like, you didn't even stick around for the compliments. Like, you just left right away. You don't need us for that then. Just say it to yourself, say it to your friends, whatever at the house. At least if you're doing it with one of your friends, at least they get the chance to tell you how good it was. You know what I'm saying? But stuff like that is stuff that I think is a bad thing. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Maybe
it ain't just you. I agree also.
Right.
And on top of that, when you leave early, you miss out on features, because it's a lot of features I received from staying to the end and somebody coming to me like, yeah, man, I saw you on stage and I want to give you a feature. And then if I'd have left, I wouldn't have got the contact. Or somebody say, hey, I want to come to your show because I stayed to the end and just really just enjoy the show.
In fact, like I said, my first feature was thanks to Lady V. I did that feature after the show was over. The great Evelyn Keener came up to me and she was like, I'm doing my poetry and conversations next month. I want you to be a part of it. I want you to feature on that. So then I did Lady V show that May. I did that May. Later on, I did Evelyn Keener. And then that led to, I forgot which one it was. But there was another one in June. And then that led to doing True King's House of Rhymes in July. That led to me being Siobhan's first feature for Reflective Soul series in August. And then that led to end of August, because of that one, the end of August, I did when I-5 was together. And I did their show at the 444 Theater. And it's just like, then that led to September. I did this gospel one with like Yaya Anderson and a couple other people. And it's like, one led to the other. So because I stayed to the end of it, you know what I'm saying? I had the time for people to buy my book. I had time for people to tell me what they liked or what I didn't like, or you know what I'm saying, to tell me that they want me to do their next show. And in fact, because I stayed to the end, I went to Mr. Fun and I asked him, because I'm like I said, I'm naturally ingrained to see the negative, so I asked him. I didn't ask him what was good about it. What you like? How did I do? I asked him, what didn't you like? I asked him, what could I be better at? And he said, it's 30 years. I never thought of it. But he said in a couple minutes, you know what? You should have Frisbees when you go out there. And it was just like, I've had this last name for 30 years and I never thought about it. And in a couple seconds, he was like, you should have Frisbees when you go up on stage. And that is why I have these now. So, because I stuck around and I talked to people, you know what I'm saying? I would never have had these Frisbees if I didn't stick around and get inspiration and influence from the other people around me. So, yeah.
I feel it 100%.
So, yeah. I'm sure there's a lot of other bad stuff.
No, you definitely get a lot of game when you stick behind and you talk to people who've been doing it longer than you. You definitely get a lot of game.
Most definitely.
How have your writing evolved over the years?
It was mainly, if it was anything positive, it was a love poem to whatever girl I was talking to or whatever, or it was going to be depression filled. Sometimes I would try to have like a happy ending, but a lot of times I didn't. A lot of times it was just, this is how negative my life is, this is how terrible it is, this is how much my heart is hurting, and I would just leave it at that. But now it's a lot more inspiration. I may still tell you the things that I'm going through, but there's a way out of it. It's a lot more clear. The whole message of the sun is shining out here, you know what I'm saying? There's the message of you can still overcome that is a lot more evident in my writing now. So the biggest change was, before I would tell you about my depression. Now I might tell you about my depression, but here's how you overcome it. That's the biggest influence, I guess, or the biggest change, I should say.
What after you drink your swig of water?
I can't do it.
No, go ahead. You good, bro. No, don't go ahead and cut him out, man. This mother gonna drink water. What's the quickest? I mean, what's your favorite poem from somebody else?
From somebody else, not because of the message on it, but my favorite poem from somebody else is Superman by Nate Mask. Like, it's just, he's talking to some girl or whatever, and it's pretty much saying like, yeah, I'm not the greatest guy in the world, I don't have all these different things, but if you see the Clark Kent in me, you know what I'm saying, I can be great. There's a lot of greatness that you may not see right now. I may not be Superman on the outside, but I'm still like Clark Kent on the inside, that kind of thing. And that's how I've always felt about myself. I don't necessarily give off this exterior of like such greatness. I'm not someone that's going to walk in the room and get all the attention, and you're going to know a star is right there as soon as you see me. But there is a lot of greatness in me though, once I start to let it out though. So that poem definitely hits me.
I like that poem too. I heard it before. Yeah, I heard it before. I heard it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he was my first like favorite poet when I came down here. So,
what's your favorite spot to perform at? What was your favorite performance and why?
Favorite performance was that feature at DU Lyric Lounge at Urban Grind. That was my favorite one because the very first thing I did was a poem dedicated to everybody else. You know what I'm saying? It was like, before I even started, I shouted out everybody else. So the very first thing I said was hyping up True King, and then TJ Nicole, and then Shay Z, and then Lady V, and then everybody else that I mentioned. And I mentioned like 30 different poets, names of their books, name of their CD, or whatever it is. And the crowd was just into like every word I said, you know what I'm saying? Right. And I remember Journey, Felicity, and Yo Sister was hanging by the camera, so you could hear a lot of the stuff that they were saying, all the reactions that they had. And when I said, I don't know who's been the greatest teacher for me, Yo Sister, Divine Rhymes, Journey, or Felicity, and they stopped everything and they started screaming, and it was a woo woo came out like what you do with the big girls poem, and that came out, and that just made everybody else erupt around them, and that was like just the greatest time I ever had on stage. And I was so open and free at that moment, you know what I'm saying? And it was like the energy they gave me is the energy that that I was thus giving back to them. I didn't start out that way at the beginning of the poem, but by the end of it, I end off. So what's good, Lyric Lounge? And it's like I would never do something like that normally. That's not who I am. You know what I'm saying? But by the end of it, all for them and all the people that was there, and the fact that like that was like the most crowded urban grind has probably ever been, was for my feature, which is like the greatest compliment ever. You know what I'm saying? By the end of it, I was so open and so loose because of all of them. So that was definitely my favorite performance.
What was your worst performance?
Oh, jeez. My worst one?
It don't have to be a feature.
Hard to say.
It could be just one. It don't have to be a feature. It could be just like one on stage or whatever. It could be a open mic. It could be feature, whatever.
There's two of them that I'm thinking of, and both of them deal with bombing on stage. So my very first performance down here was August 1st, 2013. Don't ask why I know that. I just remember numbers, bro. But Infrared was hosting first Thursday at Urban Grind, and I got up there, and I was going to do this poem called My Instrumental. I wrote it for my ex-fiance, like, from back in the day. And so I knew it. I knew it like that. I've been saying it for 8 years at this point or whatever. I had it. I got up, my parents were recording the thing, and you know what I'm saying? Matter of fact, before that, True King is why I stuck around, because I was about to leave. I couldn't find Urban Grind for the longest time, because when you put in the GPS, it was Marietta Street, and there was Marietta Street Northwest. So we put in the wrong one, and it took us like a totally different place. So I was already losing inspiration. And then I got there, I looked, I didn't know how late everything was always starting here. So I was like, well, I'm about to be out. But then True talked to me, and he was like, yo, it's about to be a great show, man. You should stay. You should stay, with his energy that I can never duplicate. But yo, you need to stay, man. It's gonna be something. I'm performing all that. You should stay. So then I finally stayed, waited like 40 minutes or whatever for the show to start, even though I was on time. So that's something I had to learn about Atlanta down here. And then like that performance, I got up and I started doing it. And I did the first verse of my instrumental. And then I'm like, wait a minute, what's the second verse? So like as I'm doing the end of the first one, because it came natural, so I'm thinking about other stuff. How does the next verse start? How's it start? And then when I get to it, I stopped for a second, and then I had to go to the third verse. And I'm like, all right, let me do that one. And then I start doing the third verse. Okay, how does the second verse start? So I stopped, and it felt like 10 minutes of just standing there. And I'm like, oh, jeez. What is the next verse? And my dad was recording it. And one of the saddest things I've ever seen, my dad was recording it. And slowly, matter of fact, it's upside down. He had it the right way. My dad was recording it. And I just looked up, and he went like this. And that was like the worst feeling I've ever had. That's the emptiest I think I've ever felt inside. So yeah, that was one of the worst times. It felt like 10 minutes, but it was probably like 40 seconds probably. Yeah. And then I eventually remembered it. Yeah. But Infrared gave me all the time in the world, and thankfully he let me do it. The other one was I-5 was doing their show August 29th, I believe, of 2014. It's so weird. I remember these dates. It's so sad. But maybe I just appreciate this stuff. Maybe that's why. But Tyrone Allen was hosting, and he called me up on stage, and I did a lot of stuff that day. Like I changed clothes on stage. I had the light technician. I had him play one of my favorite Prince songs called Blue Light. Blue Light was like a reggae type of influence from Prince, whatever. It had like a reggae sound to it. So I was like, so I asked the technician, can you turn on the blue light for me? So he turned on the blue spotlight, and the song Blue Light started playing, and I went back and changed clothes, came back out. So that was a great performance as far as that stuff. But then, which I've never admitted to anybody whether I messed up on purpose or not, but I was doing one poem. It's called Poetry is Easy, which was based on that other experience at Urban Grind, where it's about what it's like to be a poet, what it's like to choke on stage, how it feels to have the lights get really hot on you and everybody looking at you.
Most definitely. That is that other shit. The shit nobody talk about.
Yeah. So I was like, I definitely have to write a poem about that. And I started doing that poem, and I was stumbling all the way through it. And eventually I had to take the phone out. And like, whatever poem I was doing, I just could not get it. And I had to take the phone out and finish it. And then people let me actually do it. They didn't boo me off stage or nothing, so that's good. And then when that poem was over, I was like, now that's what it's like when you choke on stage. That's what it's like If you ever want to know what it feels like to be a poet messing up on stage, that's what it's like. Now let me give you this poem called Poetry is Easy. This is describing what that moment feels like. So no one really knows if I truly stumbled through that or did I purposely sabotage that poem to set up the next one.
Right.
You
was featuring at that time?
Yeah.
Okay.
I featured on that one. Felicity, a couple other people. Yo sis was part of that show. So yeah, it was a great event that I was definitely honored to be a part of that. So yeah, so no one really knows if I like really stumbled through that first one or not, or was I just setting up the second one. But those are the two times that like my worst experiences, I guess, on stage. So yeah, another one back in Philly. Actually, I called this girl up on stage and I was doing the poem that I wrote for her. Halfway through it, I forgot what it was. So I'm like, oh shit. I was like, all right, y'all stop clapping because that threw me off. And then I tried it again, still didn't get it. And like she's sitting there on stage in this chair, and she's got to get back up and go back to her seat now without a completed poem. That sucks. But you know, that was the growing pains of performing.
Right, and you still got through it, and you still yeah. Better than what you were back then, right?
Most definitely.
That's how that shit be,
absolutely
man.
Better.
Yeah, that's how that shit. Even I don't care if you've been doing it for 50 years, 100 years. Like you will get on stage and forget something. You will get on stage and stumble on something. Like because we're human, we're not perfect.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Most definitely.
Yeah.
If y'all knew how many days this entire week I had to practice that first poem, and I'm still like, man, do I have it today? So yeah. So it happens definitely.
It was even worse than that. If you spit it 100 times and you get it perfect 100 times, and when it count, you fuck up. You like, yo, I done did this poem 1,000 times. Yeah.
That's my instrumental. Yes, it happens.
How many poems do you have locked in your head right now? Or at your peak, what was the most amount of poems you had in your head?
It probably would have been like 20 back then. But people are like, I don't know how you memorize one thing. I'm like, it's easy. But then I probably had like 20 back in the day. And then, because especially with the fact that a lot of my poems were really short, so I guess that would help. But then, like other people, they were like ready at any given moment. So I was like, I ain't doing enough. So then I knew that there was still more that I could be doing, but probably like 15, 20 was like the most I ever had.
What's the longest it took you to write or remember a new piece?
The longest would be one poem called The Upside Down Tree, which was the cover of my second book. There's a tree that hangs from heaven. Like the ancient Indian writings called the Vedas, Vedas, they had this thing, they had these old stories about this tree that grew from heaven. That like, it didn't grow from the ground, but it grew upside down, of course. And it had like all these powers. And in the branches of the trees, there was like healing powers and all this stuff. So I took that and I turned it into like a gospel poem called The Upside Down Tree. The Upside Down Tree. And like that one was really important to me. So even though it's not that long, it still took me like 4 months to write it because I wasn't going to just write anything. It wasn't going to be just anything put in there. Every line had to be important. Every word meant something. So like I never put that much focus in anything. So that poem took me like 4 months. And then the one that influenced The Unseen Picture, called Painting the Unseen Picture, the title track of the album, that took, I don't know how many months that took. And that's the first poem that like I really went to other people. I went to Lauren Doriana, I went to Journey, and like I went to other people. I went to Nikki Gray, and I was like, can y'all read this for me? Tell me what you think. What's wrong with it? Was better. I went to Nikki Skies about it, and she was like, you know, tell what it was like that day. What were they doing during the day before? Is this about the September 15, 1963, the church bombing in Birmingham with the 4 little girls died in that? And it was like, what were they doing that day? What was the atmosphere like? What was the air like? You know what I'm saying? And Nikki Skies definitely was why that poem was as good. It was good before. Now I can say it's great because other people helped me with it. But yeah, it was good before. But all those people definitely was like pointing out stuff that I'd never thought about. So I went back and I added. And I went back and added stuff like how those 4 little girls, they were down in the church basement and they were helping each other get ready for the service and all that stuff. And one was reading the Bible, others were like tying sashes on their clothes and all. So like I added little details like that because of the influence of Nikki Skies and all the other people that was around.
Have you ever seen anyone on stage and be like, damn, I wish I wrote that, or damn, I gotta get better?
about my stuff.
Yeah.
People have told me how much they like it. It was great.
No, I'm talking about, have you seen another artist on stage and be like, damn, I gotta get better?
That's all the time. That's all the time. Like, the main ones I'm thinking of is like everything Nate Mass wrote back in the day was like so incredible to me, and I'm like, goodness, how am I gonna do that?
Him and Ryan, really good.
Oh yeah, definitely,
yeah,
definitely. The one of them that I'm really thinking is Kendall Turner or Kendall S. Turner. I guess. Yeah,
I tried to reach out to her to do an interview, but she haven't checked out. I don't know. Man, I'm gonna go in stalker mode maybe. Yeah. That's what I gotta do. Go in stalker mode.
She did my second artistic fusion for me, and she is so incredible.
Bodied it. And she's so nonchalant when she bodied it.
That's exactly what I was about to say.
She's so nonchalant when she killing it.
That's exactly what I was about to go to.
I'm sorry.
Nah, that's great. Like, she just gets up there, and like she keeps like an even tone. She stands there. She might have her hands in the pocket. She ain't got no fireworks. She don't have backup dancers. She don't do nothing. She stands there and talks to you.
Yeah.
And yet she gets like the loudest ovations from people.
Yeah.
And it's just like, how do you do that? Like, you don't need all the antics. You know what I'm saying? She told me, I don't need to scream and yell at everybody. You know what I'm saying? And matter of fact, that makes me think of something else. Wrestling, believe it or not, wrestling has shaped so much of me and who I am. And JFris was inspired and created by different wrestlers. But Jake the Snake Roberts is one of the greatest people ever. And cut a promo is what they call in wrestling when they do interviews. So he did this interview one time. Vince McMahon was talking to him, and he says something along the lines of, if a man has enough power, he doesn't need to yell. He can speak softly and everybody's going to listen to him. And it's just like, wow, that's the way I really need to be. And I'm like, I really got to have my words to be that powerful.
Mm-hmm.
And Kendall Turner, her words are that powerful.
I agree.
She doesn't yell or nothing. And people are all into every word that she says. There's not a sound in the room unless they're reacting to how great something was. There's not a sound in the room when she starts talking. Also, the other one was Bugsy Calhoun from South Carolina. And he's another one. He just stands there. He stands there, but like he has more energy in his voice, but he stands there. He doesn't, because he's kind of a big guy or whatever, and he talks about it on stage. I'm too big to be moving around and doing flips and all this stuff. I'm already sweating. I'm just standing. So he's definitely an influence to me. He's the one who made me write one of my favorite poems is Praise the DJs. He's the inspiration for me writing that, besides the DJs like Jazzy Jeff and all, the greatest of all time. But he has this poem about the history of hip hop. And he's just like what it was like growing up and the influence hip hop had on you. Do you remember doing this and that? And it's just all kinds of stuff. And it was like he stands there. He's another one that can stand there. And his words gets everybody going. And his words made me think like, yo, I can't describe my childhood like that. I've never written anything like this before. And then that's where Praise the DJs came from. And that turned out to be like my favorite poem I've ever done.
Mm-hmm.
So Bugsy, Kendall, Nate, you know, I mean, people like you who just...
You don't have to say, man.
Nah, man, no, I know it sounds like blowing smoke, whatever. But the thing about you, I'll definitely say, is no matter what the situation is, there's a poem that goes with it. And I definitely never had it memorized like that. But I've never really written poems like that. I talk about it in some of my poems. But it's like, I want to get so much better with that. If you're a well-rounded person, you know what I'm saying, you should have something to fit every situation so no one can box you. That's in, great, I forgot the name of the poem. That is from, obviously, Unpredictable. You know what I'm saying? You gotta be unpredictable. You gotta be able to conform to whatever room is, whatever the situation is, whatever it's called for. That is definitely what, the influence I would get from you. So now I'm expanding into a lot more things. The latest poem I've written during this quarantine is I've actually learned to start doing gardening now. I actually gone out and I planted lilies and all this stuff. I wouldn't even say the word lilies before. That was way too soft for me. Right? I feel funny saying it right now. But I actually planted a couple of those and aloe plants and whatnot. You know what I'm saying? I'm digging up weeds and all. I'm actually out in the yard doing gardening. And I wrote a poem about gardening, which is about my lawn. It's about my lawn and all that stuff. It's about gardening, but it's about my life in general. And the rose that I talk about is about a female. But it's about life in general. But, you know what I'm saying? Thinking of stuff like that, I wouldn't have done it before without people like you and all the other poets, with all the creativity that I've gotten to see from everybody else that I didn't have before I came here. So those are the influences, I guess.
That's dope. That's dope. I'm gonna ask you like 3 more things, and then I'm gonna let you go. I ain't gonna talk your head off no more.
Right.
What's something you would tell an up and coming poet to make them better? What advice would you give an up and coming poet?
Definitely to have a lot of different topics. You know what I'm saying? If you only have love poems, then that's the shows you're gonna get, which people have made that successful. But you know what I'm saying? But that's what you're gonna be known as. That's what you're gonna be put into the box of. You know? But definitely being really versatile, definitely having something to hit everybody, because there's a lot of poets that get on stage. I'm not a love poet. I don't like love poems. So you're not going to reach those people. Mm-hmm. So, all right, you don't want to just hit them with nothing but depression, or I'm a strong black man. You know what I'm saying? It's like not everybody is going to be into just that. So have something for everybody, but definitely never lose the love for it. So I guess I'm going like in reverse order. That's number 3. Number 2 is have the love for it and never lose the love for it. Don't forget why you're actually doing it. You know what I'm saying? Which is number 1 of be out there and be active and be an inspiration to the next people. If you come with your writings from the heart and you know that what you're giving is going to reach somebody, you know what I'm saying? Give somebody something that they can feel. Like En Vogue or Aretha Franklin. Give them something that they can feel. I was like, that's the DJ in me coming out right now. But give them something they can feel. You know what I'm saying? Give them something that you've been through that you can show them that they're not alone in this battle. That's number 1. As long as it's honest, open, all that kind of stuff. Give them something they can feel, something that they can be inspired by, and give them all different subjects. Because I'm sure you as a person, you don't just go to school and that's it. Or you don't just go to work. You don't just do any one thing. There's a lot of different aspects to you. So how come that's not reflected in your writings? And that's what I always would think. So number 3, give them a lot of different subjects. Number 2, be the inspiration. Number 1, don't forget why you started doing this.
That's dope. That's dope. And we haven't talked about DJing. We've been talking about poetry the whole time. 1, how did you get an infinity love for music? And then 2, how did you get into DJing?
Number 1 is from my oldest brother who recently just died. He died about 2 months ago at the time of this recording. He's the one that had me from 5 years old. I'm listening to like NWA at 5 years old and Run DMC, LL. Everything that I know about old school hip hop started from him. And the only bigger Prince fan I've ever met was my oldest brother. He's the only one bigger than me, probably knew more than me. He saw Prince more times than I did, all that kind of stuff. He bought me my ticket the first time I got to see Prince on stage, which is a whole nother thing that influenced the kind of performer I wanted to be. But he's the one that got me into it musically. And he got me into the old school hip hop. Like anything made past 2000, I probably don't know anything about it. But anything before though, especially the 80s, is like my love. I was listening to my Run DMC mixtape I just put up. Matter of fact, I made it on CD because I still have CDs. So I was just listening to Run DMC right before I came here. And it's like, you know, that's all about having the DJ and glorifying the DJ from back in the day. So I've always wanted to learn how to DJ. Fresh Prince and Jazzy Jeff, believe it or not, his first 2 albums are incredible. Especially his second album. He's the DJ, I'm the rapper. One of the greatest albums ever made. Don't knock it till you listen to it. Believe it or not, Will Smith, Fresh Prince actually made one of the greatest albums ever. And Jazzy Jeff, I think, is easily the greatest DJ ever. And it's like, I've always been so influenced by that. And I've always loved being able to blend 2 different things. The cover of my first book, My Heart Through My Hands, it's the hands blended with the heart together. I've always been able to want to be able to blend 2 different things together like that. You know, from Jazzy Jeff and Jam Master Jay and Red Alert and all those people. So that's where the love of it comes from. My oldest brother putting me on to all the 80s rap, or 80s hip hop. There's a difference with hip hop and rap. But then wanting to be a DJ, like I said, I always wanted to blend everything together. I always wanted to just learn how to DJ and really see what people react to, and really have people react to something that I'm doing. Not that I put in the work for the songs and all that, but like the DJing that I'm doing, people actually get up and dance. People actually sing along, whatever it is. All those things. Now, because I go on so long, I actually forgot the original question. I don't know if you asked who got me into it, but Arcane is the one that started me with like the DJing down here, though.
Okay. And here go my last question.
Uh,
Tell me about your infinity love for Prince.
So we're gonna restart the battery on this and all that. All right, yeah. Goodness, man.
I couldn't let this interview go without bringing up Prince.
I appreciate it.
I couldn't do that.
Yes, man. I just want.